Welcome to a new episode of Superpowered Fancast. This is Darren. On this episode of the podcast, I got to interview writer Simon Birks, whose latest series Antarctica drops its fifth issue this week. Now, Simon Birks is an award-winning writer of comics, novels, and films. He is one of the co-founders of Blue Fox Comics, which has successfully funded over 50 comic book Kickstarter campaigns. In this episode, we discuss the series Antarctica, which follows a young woman named Hannah. After her father disappears on a research mission in Antarctica, she grows up and gets a job at the same facility and discovers that the facility is the nexus point for a strange and deadly alternate universe adventure. Now, I'm going to apologize in advance for the audio quality or if there are any audio issues. I'm still working on a lot of stuff and I'm still working with some old equipment. So if anyone has any advice for new equipment that doesn't break the bank, feel free to email me your ideas, superpoweredfancast@gmail.com. But without further ado, here's my interview with Simon Birks.
But Simon Birks, thank you for being on the podcast. My first question especially because I love talking to writers. So I was going to ask is what your comic book journey was. Was it something that were comics something you enjoyed as a kid, or is it something that or is it a genre that you discovered later?
Uh, Comic books, yeah. When I was, let's say, 7, I think I can remember the date on the comics that my nan bought me, and it was 1977. So I was 7 at the time. Yeah, Spider-Man comics she bought me for, I think, probably a year or two. I seem to think, and I think my brother had, who was like 3.5 years older than me, he had like Star Wars comics as well. I think that when they came out. So yeah, I mean, I think the truth is, I fell in love with comics. I fell in love with Spider-Man at that time. Uh, but as with I think a lot of things, other things take priority, and I sort of didn't really actively read comics. Didn't really. I didn't. We didn't have a comic shop where I grew up. I think that probably is a big thing. So I generally wandered around bookshops. So I was a bit of a book nerd in that sense. So wandered around a lot of bookshops, hovering around the horror aisle or the horror sort of stand sort of thing. But I think had we had a comic shop where I grew up, yes, I would have continued that journey. But so really, I sort of so when I was 11 or 12, I sort of got I was put in a top tier because I wrote a poem, and it as a competition at school, and it sort of spurred me writing, because before that I didn't have any interest in writing at all. But because somebody said, "Yeah, we really like this poem," we just went for it, and I sort of really, I don't know, I just it changed my whole outlook and direction of life. And yeah, I decided to well, not decided, writing is a passion, and I can't not do it now. I just it's finding time to do it, of course, is the thing. But really, yeah. So I spent a lot of time, well, initially writing poetry, I think because I was young and full of angst, and also, and it was short, so I could it would match my attention span probably. But as the years went by, it turned into things like short stories and single act plays, and then full length plays, and then screenplays I've done. I've written some novels as well. So yeah, and then sort of I'd say I had a lot of short film scripts that I knew were going to cost more to make than they would ever possibly bring in. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I can look at those with the idea of trying to adapt those into comics. I don't think I really knew how to do that, but as with a lot of my life, I just tried it. I just jumped in with both feet and thought, well, let's give it a go. And so Sinners, which was my first issue, first comic that I wrote, was sort of born, and that was probably, we kickstarted that back in the beginning of 2015. I remember it very well because it went right to the wire. So yeah, and that's kind of the thing which springboarded me into the last 8 years or so of Kickstarter of comics, writing comics, and which has really brought me to this point in time.
Well, that was going to be kind of along the lines of my next question, because I saw that it's a screenwriter, and so I did wonder, and I've wondered this: is the comic book medium one of those things where when you see a story in your head and it's a story you want to tell, but no one's going to give you like the $100 or $200 million to make this into a film. Is it something where you're like, you know what, I can make this into a series and serialize it so that people get the full story I want to tell, that I might not be able to tell on screen? Is that kind of a little bit of the mindset?
Very much. Fortunate enough to have been born at the time when the internet was born, and we've now got to a situation where self-publishing was a thing, and again, go back to Kickstarter and stuff like that. Kickstarter was around, so so I don't really. I do send stuff. Obviously, I wouldn't have got the well, maybe I would, but the Antarctica bitch. But generally, I would look at something and say, okay, I can wait for somebody else to okay this and say, yes, we'll print your thing, we'll publish your story, or I can do it myself and learn along the way as well. So that's kind of a lot of what I do. I co-wrote a film. Again, I think it's going to be 2012, 2013, called The Search for Simon. I didn't title it. It was already titled that. And and sort of that got me into, and I was also an actor in the film because it was an indie film, and you do it everything. And then being on set during those things, I looked and I thought, okay, this is how you make, this is how you can make a film or make a series. And so really, this by my own sort of idea, I wrote a film, and I wrote a little mini series, mini series, six episodes, and got into that and understood what was necessary, and from that understood how much money is needed to do something properly, or whatever you would say, to a very, very high standard that I always want. Yes, I think that inside of me, I want to produce stories or anything I produce, any comic I produce, I want it to be a very high standard. So again, looking at those short film scripts, knowing that it was going to cost thousands to produce, and yes, I could send them to festivals if people, they might have a chance at screening the festival, and they might have a chance of winning sort of prizes, getting placed top in a category or something, or anywhere. Or I don't know what the light bulb moment was where I thought I could turn these into comics. Clearly, it was something there. Clearly, I looked at the comic or looked at something. I thought, okay, yeah, I could definitely do this. I don't know, but it was very much my need to not wait around, not wait on other people, be very time conscious of yeah, of that really, and knowing that the tools are out there. I worked in IT up until 3 years ago, so I had a good understanding of of setting a lot of stuff up, which is very fortunate as well. So yeah, all in all, I kind of had the right kind of profession to make a lot of it work, and take born at the right time. I'm just trying to use the tools that are available as well, just to help.
Well, as someone who, like, when you said you worked in IT, as someone who currently works in IT,
Hmm.
that's actually that's actually very gratifying to hear. It's
Yeah,
something that I could absolutely, you
yeah.
know, I could think of doing, because I've actually considered that, and I look at the technology now, and I look at people like you who do Kickstarter and who do Substack
Hmm.
and things like that, and I want to believe that that's something that I might be able to do myself
Hmm.
down the road. So it's gratifying to hear that you can have an IT background and still publish as a writer. So, but
Yeah.
but do you think about that in when you are writing it? It's a little kind of out there as far as the question goes, but when
Hmm.
you are kind of creating something, do you find yourself maybe analyzing a little more than you normally would, or you does the analysis go away and the creativity take over?
Yeah, I remember I was on a course, and they did like I don't know, I can't remember what it, but like an aptitude thing, but like a brain thing, and this is the are you a left right brain sort of person, and I was literally down the middle. I mean, the validity of that test, I don't know, but it made me smile when I saw it, because I thought, yeah, that's pretty accurate, really. I do have when it comes to the IT stuff, yeah, I would get lost in programming, which is what I started out doing. I then sort of moved out of programming, which is probably one of the reasons why I'm not in IT anymore, because I didn't really enjoy it as much as the programming side. But yeah, went into systems analysis and all sorts of things really in the end. Um, but when it comes to I'm sure when it comes to writing comics, there must be an element of that in there. But I'm not a great planner. As a writer, I like my characters to surprise me, and they often do. So yeah, I remember the pitch that I wrote to Top Cow for the Antarctica sort of season 1 sort of thing. Um, it does bear some resemblance to what happened at the end, but as the actual issues, but not as much as you'd think. So it does change, and as I see the art coming in from Willie as well, who does this fantastic art, and I'm able to. It really it fires things off in new directions, and so it really the writing process, yeah, it's quite evolving. So the analysis that happens would be kind of like probably micro analysis as it goes along, not an overarching analysis sort of thing.
Yeah, I can absolutely agree with that. And getting into Antarctica, because I know it's kind of a cliche question to ask, but because it's such a unique and interesting science fiction journey for me, is I do kind of I'm just going to ask a cliche question. It's like, kind of, where did the idea for Antarctica come from? Because there's so many great elements of different types of science fiction stories that I've enjoyed growing up,
Mm,
like coming together in one. It's just this one of the things that kind of draws me in with every issue. But
mm.
I do kind of want to know, like, where did you kind of see this story?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think I wish there was a succinct answer to that. The again the way it happened, this Antarctica appeared as a 6-page in an anthology from Top Cow called Stairway Anthology. It was a 6-page story, which is basically the last 6 pages of issue 1, where Hannah arrives in Antarctica, and the weird stuff happens. So the previous stuff, all the backstory, I hadn't really thought about, even though those last 6 pages mentioned Jim, because I knew there was somebody called Jim there, but that's about it. So yeah, sorry, and that's sorry, brain goes sometimes. As you can imagine. Yeah. So yeah, the actual story, I remember I like single location stories, and I know Antarctica was going to restrict me in doing that. So I think, and again, my brain is that sort of brain where if the more restrictions I have, the better I can write. It's like getting, when you're at school, having like they give you the first line of the story. I think I really used to like those, because then I could just run with that. If you give me a limitation, and I'll work within that. And so really, so Antarctica being this, very this one place type thing. Obviously, I'm a great The Thing fan, so I mean that's gonna play into it as well.
Glad you said that, because there was so many like moments that the thing that came in the first like 3 issues alone.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
environment is definitely reminds me of the story.
Yeah, that's right. And also, I think obviously I had the idea that this other station was going to appear, so you're sort of limited as to where that can happen in the world, and it not be a world event sort of thing. So that's also plays into it. But no, I'm kind of beyond that. It was just an idea, a nice idea that I must have. I jot a lot of my ideas down. I'm sure you do the same. As you go along. I've got an Evernote full of one-liners and very short snippets. And I would have looked at that, I'm sure. And it probably appears in there somewhere. And a lot of the time, I have. You have multiple ideas down, and then you look at them, and you can sort of pair them up, and it becomes a bigger story or bigger idea. But no, that's what I went with. I just Stargate as well, as you say. If I've not ever seen the series of Stargate, but I've seen the film. I mean, again, came out when I was the right age to watch it. I guess not the right age, but a good age to watch it. Yeah, so it's just, I think all of those things got mixed up in my brain, and I just had this opportunity to really, and that's the thing. I knew it was going to be have Image on the title, so I thought I had to create a story. I don't know, which was really exciting for lots of people, because I'm an indie comic writer up till now, and my indie comics are. I don't know. They're somebody described sort of like the stories I write as melancholy hopeful, and that's kind of what I do. Melancholy hopeful, is it? There is hope in there, but my boy, are they sad. So I thought, okay, well, that's fine, and I really enjoy doing those, and I enjoy being able to do those and print those. But I thought, okay, for this it needs to be a bit more bombastic. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's sort of in your face. Oh my god, what's happening? And that's how it came to be, and and not look back since.
Well, and again, just going back to the comic itself, there's so many elements of it that I enjoy, but the first through line that always connects with me are the characters. So, I mean, Hannah, they're both really compelling characters. So there's points in the story where I don't know, like the Hannah we get from the first issue.
Yeah.
There's the one that you're following, but I also find the other Hannah just as compelling, because you feel that there's a tragedy to her story as well. Like, you've got the tragedy of Hannah's story with her father and the loss of the man that she cared for, and then finding those characters again on this station. So I admire the fact that even though there's huge science fiction elements, these huge action beats, and these apocalyptic states,
Hmm.
that the characters themselves seem are the thing that kind of
Yeah.
drive them. Is that something that you, when you're writing it, you want to make sure that that the audience connects with those characters as well? And I guess almost kind of like a little process question: how can you, like, how do you the characters focus, but also want to, show all the big bombastic action?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I'm very much yeah, somebody when I watch TV programs and films and all when I consume media, I want to care for the characters. There's no point if I don't care for any of those characters. I think we have streaming services now. I've got to a stage where I sit next to my wife and we say, okay, look, how long are we going to give this one? Is it, yeah, and generally it's 10 minutes. And if it doesn't grab us in 10 minutes, it's just, and it is such a shame because a lot of media seems to, not be relying on the writing or not be relying on, us caring for the people. And that's really, and you see, again, issue one was, I don't think, I might be wrong, but I don't think that issue one of Antarctica is a normal issue for comics because we've got 16 pages of Hannah. This is what's happening to Hannah only. Because I knew that the whole story was going to, revolve around at least her, and you've got to care. You've just got to understand what's happening, and yeah. So it really is in my writing. It's very much a case of really looking and caring for those characters, and then you can have the action, and then you can have the set pieces or the fights, and just the reveals, because you know who they are, and you I don't know, you feel a lot more. I was fortunate enough, Top Cow invited me over to be at San Diego Comic Con and sitting at the stand when issue one had come out, and I had a lot of lovely people come up to me and just say, oh my God, it made me feel something, and I feel that a lot of comics don't do that. A lot of comics are very story centric, and that's, and obviously I need to have a great story as well. But yeah, I just, the characters have to be just interesting, and you have to care for them. And I think as well we've got a broad range of characters as well. I mean, and we've got with Hirsch and with Matteo, and just all the characters in there, and Jim. I think it's yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely to be able to I don't know, just take him on his journey. And as I say, it's initially we had just the 5 issues. The first arc was okayed, was given the green light, and then again I think yeah, Top Cow being fantastic, and they sort of said, we love this book, we'd like to make it an ongoing series. So, which was lovely because in my brain it was always bigger than 5 issues. Hopefully, when you read it, it probably feels bigger than 5 issues, because it always was. It wasn't a thing where I suddenly had to think, oh, okay, what am I going to do now? It's okay, great, I can now do all this stuff. And yeah, so I did change the last page. It is now subtly different in issue 5, but. Well, we meet yet another character, and yeah, and yes, so just writing the second arc has been a dream as well. So
yeah, and that's again, we transition right into my next question, because I was going to ask about when you were writing it for a limited series with the hope of it going on, or were you thinking of the bigger series all along? And because I, again, reading up to the point where it's at, I was like, this, I need more. There has to be more here, because it's the story's expanding and adding so many different layers and characters and situations and environments. And it's talking about like climate change and things like that. So like it in my mind, it's like this needs to be. I need to see more of it. So is that something that when you were writing, it was like, was it did you limit yourself in the first 5 issues to say, well, I want to say as much as I can with the hope that I can say more, or you just like, this is the story I want to tell?
Yeah, and the latter. I just thought this is the story. I'm not gonna. I can't limit myself. I'm just gonna. You know, I was very cheeky. Again, went over to San Diego and I said, "Oh, by the way, I don't know whether you want to carry it on, but I've already written, the next 3.5 issues, and I'm happy to carry on. Because I knew, that's what I wanted to happen, and so I'm very thankful that they did that. And also, the exciting thing is that when we start the next arc, we go back 15 years. So in Antarctica at the moment, I mean, Dr. Curtis or Dr. Hannah is sort of, she's upset with her father. She clearly is not a fan. So it's natural to me. And then the other nice thing is because I started writing the second arc before, that I'd even gone over to San Diego. Again, it's not forced. I'm not thinking, oh no, what am I going to do now? It was just the natural thing to happen next is that we go back in time and we find out we find out more, and Jerome's in it a lot more, her father's in it a lot more, so you get to know his character instead of just flashbacks, and which is fine. It's very exciting. Obviously I'm seeing the pages come through now for I think I've got issue 8 Woody's doing the art for at the moment, and it's just great. And I just hope, fingers crossed that it is popular, it remains popular, because I know what the last page is, and I think this is one of the things that when it arrived in my brain, I was very happy. So I know what the very, very, very last page is, but I don't know what the journey is to get there. So we're going to have the idea is we have a lot of fun, and excitement and surprises and reveals and death, probably, knowing me, before we get there.
I'm glad to hear that, because I like knowing that the story can continue to evolve in the mind of the writer, like as the story is coming together. Right? It's always and I'm sure a lot of other people always think that they have to have like every beat of the story like mapped out before, like from start to finish, before you can go to publishing. I like hearing that you have that ability to kind of step back, look at it, change things, and change things as the story progresses, because it makes stories feel fresh. And that's one of the things I enjoy about Antarctica is that there are so many different story elements that are coming together, and even things that I've read in the issues just make me want to know more about the characters, make me know more about different things. Like I've loved the mystery. It's probably been the biggest thing at the end of every episode. It's like at the end of every issue. I'm like, well, how does the father, like, why did the father disappear? Like, where did he go? What did he do? What does he have to do with this? And I'm looking for things in the story that connect it. So I'm gratified to hear that it's something that you're continuing to work on. I finished all this. Here it is.
Yeah.
It's find that as a writer, do you find that freeing in a sense, or can it at times stress you as you're trying to figure out like where do I want to go with this story element?
What sort of the planning, not on the fly, but the more, I think sometimes, but I think as I mentioned earlier, the more restrictions I have, sometimes the better I am, because
you like the pressure.
Yeah, very much. There's in issue 3, there's a flashback which has a telephone call it's the bit where sort of Jerome says arse, and she mentions it. That's what you said, Dad. And in this one, in issue 9, we actually get what that phone call was, but I didn't know it back in issue 3. But I knew, there was something there. It's kind of just trusting it, isn't it? It's just trusting yourself. So I knew that was there, and so I've been able to use that. So now it looks like I'm really clever, and I know what I'm doing. But I only half know what I'm doing. So it's lovely to have all that sort of thing, and to and it happens a lot. It happens a lot. I think, oh yeah, I could use that. I could, that actually, again, it would make me look like I planned it, but yeah, a lot of the time, I have things in there. I think also like in the early, in the first 4 issues, well, in issue 2 to 4 maybe, it starts coming in that don't they say when in the flashbacks, I don't wake, and then you don't hear who that is, so you don't know who that is. So, and I didn't really know who that was going to be until issue 5, and think, okay, oh, that's who it is, and they're kind of a major player in the whole thing, and okay, that's great. Yeah, thanks. But yeah, so I set myself up, and most of the time it comes off. So,
Well, again, I'm loving the series, the story. I love the characters, and there's such a great kind of cinematic feel to it. Well, like I am seeing like all the different like sci-fi films I loved as a kid, like
yeah,
all
yeah,
different kind of genres that I've done, and even kind of the multiverse stuff that's kind of become popular nowadays.
yeah.
So I'm constantly looking forward to the next issue of Antarctica. I was going to ask: are there any other things that you're working on at the same time? It's like, is there another series that you wanted to kind of that might be different, or
Yeah. Well, the sort of the day job now that I sort of do this is I run a company called Blue Fox Comics in the UK. I mean, this coming weekend we're going to be at Thought Bubble Comic Convention. So this is the idea. So we publish comics. We started off publishing my own comics. So I can't draw for toffee. Other people did that for me, but I wrote them. So yes, we have a lot of comics, but we also publish other people's comics now as well. If they're complete and they fit in with what we do. So yeah, that they're literally at the moment. Today has been packing 125 envelopes, which are stacked beside me. But so we got like sort of the thing on the doorstep. So this is I've written with Willie, actually, another thing that I've written with Willie. It's a Lovecraft adaptation, but it's kind of, let's say, it's been brought up to date. Kind of a revisionist adaptation. So that's just happening. But yeah, we do Kickstarters every month now. So at the moment we've got one which ends tomorrow for a Choose Your Own Adventure book that I do as well. So that's called Monuments.
It's on your Substack.
Yeah, that's right. So we do. I've got because I give myself so much to do. I've got sort of like 3 Substacks. So one of them, which is just my silly writing, sort of poetry and short stories. The other one, which is called A Branching Narrative, which is, yes, it's the Choose Your Own Adventure thing. And we've got, I did 3 smaller adventures last year, and now we've collected those into a book. And because we now do gaming conventions, like tabletop gaming conventions in the UK now, right, because it's just, it's nice. They're lovely people. And there's obviously a big crossover between comics and games. And I love games. So yeah, so we do those as well. So that's running at the moment, but we'll have kind of a couple of weeks after that. We'll have another Kickstarter for an issue 3 of a comic. Not that I've written or anything, that we're publishing other people's. So yes, there's always something going on. I think a while ago we sat down and we worked out how many projects we had on the go, and this was a few months ago, and we had like 25 projects on the go. So it gives you an idea. There's a lot. We do a lot, which is fun and pulling my hair out. I mean, so because that's been going along quite nicely, and now the Antarctica thing is happening. Actually, that's the thing which is putting the pressure on everything else. So that's my current. How do I get a nice work balance? So let's forget life. That's not going to happen. So work balance. Yeah. So it's fun and stressful and everything else that you expect of work. So, but yeah. So yes, there's lots of things. BlueFoxComics.com. If people want to go over there and have a look, you can. And also we've got a link tree. Everything is just Blue Fox Comics. Instagram, X, Blue Sky, Linktree. But yeah, so just wander across to there. yes, anyway, so that's yeah. If you follow along, you'll see everything that we're doing, and it's a lot. I'm hoping to um, get another book out with one of the larger known publishers, shall we say, in comic shops, but I don't know. I can understand why everybody would want to just let's wait and see how Antarctica does. Let's see if he sticks the landing. I think it's probably in my mind that's maybe what's happening, but we'll see. We'll see. Yes, I've got lots of pictures, and I would love to. I would love to get books out there, but yeah, we'll just. It's a slow process, you know. I'm 53 now, so it's taken a while to get here. So I can wait a bit longer. It's okay, but I'd like to. Yeah, I'd like to get some. I've got lots of ideas as always, and yeah, enjoy it.
Here, especially determination, keeping busy, especially doing something that you enjoy. One of the questions I like to ask writers, and again, it's from being a lifelong comic book nerd. Is I love to ask writers, especially writers who have enjoyed comics growing up, but have love to create their own ideas and things. Is that if, let's say, one of the big publishers comes in and says, what character would you like to write for? Would you take like one of our characters? And I'm not asking you like to pitch. I'm not asking you like what your idea would be. But
No,
I just kind of ask like if there was a character like the Marvel that you would like to write, who would it be, and kind of why does that character connect?
I think in truth it would probably be a character. It would be probably be a minor character.
Right.
I enjoy writing female protagonists, so it'd probably be female, and only because let's say the minor character because I could do more with it.
Right.
That's all. I feel less bound to many decades of continuity and stuff like that because I just probably don't have the time. But so yes, I would like to do that. I mean, I guess if you take a classic example, probably Neil Gaiman's Sandman. I think he probably took a character and ran with it and said, "Okay, let's do what I want, really," and which is lovely. And so it's that sort of thing. Yeah, something where I could just just create this great story, and I don't mind it being within a world, and you can't do this and you can't do that, and whatever. Superman can pop up every now and again, but I'd rather I like reading image books. I like reading that sort of I don't know. I love supernatural stuff, but I also like reading more earthy type things. So yeah, in that sense, that's kind of. I don't think I've ever written a superhero. If I have, it's just again. Yeah.
I think because what you were saying when you mentioned Sandman, like I'm a huge gaming fan, a huge Sandman fanatic, and I've always kind of wanted to, and maybe it's just because it's been in my head. I know it'll never happen, but I've always kind of wanted to have like a little limited series of like the adventures of Bob Gatlin, like all of this, all the things that he was doing for like the hundreds of years that he's been alive, just like heard about, but we never actually got a chance to see. So, I can absolutely understand how interesting those smaller characters can be.
When I write books, or stories, I generally don't tend to, you'll get the Game of Thrones, which want to talk about kings and queens and lords and ladies, but I'm not interested in those people. I'm sure they have very interesting lives. I'm happy for them to go and do that. But that's not my experience. It's not what I know about. I could learn about it, I'm sure. What I know about is just being, somebody who's sat in an office for the last 30 years or whatever, and just knowing about life and real people. I just want real people, which is why you'll find that a lot. They're very flawed people in Antarctica, but they're just real people. They just they're trying to get on with life, and some of them have got great I don't know, a very good people, and some of them are less good people. So it's that's who I am. That's why I don't look at. I mean, there's obviously fantastic superhero stories out there, but I tend not to look at those. I tend to look at more peoply stories. But again, people supernatural stuff as well. So that's the kind of thing. But it wouldn't be. I don't know. Obviously, somebody gets me on the phone and says, "We got this Batman thing." I go, "Yeah, right, yeah." But but on the whole, if sitting here right now, I just, I sit here and I think, okay, can I write a short series? And this is what my next goal is, because again, your brain just goes bang, and it's like, okay, I start off and I've got another kind of pitch, which is for a book called Bunker, which is again a single location, unsurprisingly, a bunker on an alien planet, and sort of people. At the beginning, everyone descends the lifts, and the lifts blow up, and they're stuck there. And but it's just very interesting and very sort of human interplay. But there's also an alien there who's also come down in lifts, waving a white flag, basically. And do you trust them? So there's that sort of thing. And I would love to do that, but it's not going to be a short book. I can't pitch it to anyone saying this is a 5-issue series, because it really isn't. So yeah, but there you go. So I do have things. I think I do have comics that I've written which are shorter, but again, I always know, that there is more to them, and I leave little threads so that you can pick it up later on if you want to. So.
Yeah, well, one of the things I appreciate when it says that the story is what's important, not necessarily like it doesn't have to be like 5 or 6 issues. It's the story is compelling. Like I'll read 30 issues of something that is compelling every episode, or something that evolves or changes, rather than but I can also find joy in like a 5-book mini that tells the complete story. So it's never the length for me, it's always the story.
No, very much. And this is the lovely thing about Antarctica is that, but I'm not sitting there thinking, okay, well, how can I add another 5 issues to it, or how can I, it's just not like that. I'm just writing it as the story feels natural to me. And recently, a phrase which has obviously been playing over my head is, this idea with the jumping the shark thing. And I think, well, really, in Antarctica #1, we jump the shark. We have this crazy moment, and there is no. I don't think there's any bigger sharks I can jump over at the moment. But so is that sort of thing. So as long as I just keep going and keep writing stuff where it makes people feel stuff, and you care for the characters, and it surprises you, and all that's and you learn things. I don't know. It's lovely. Yeah.
Well, Simon Birks, thank you again so much for being on the podcast. I know I'm going to have all the links for Blue Fox Comics in this episode, but if you wanted people to follow you on social media, or anything else you got to say out there in the
absolutely.
Where can they follow you?
Okay, so as I say, the company Blue Fox Comics, you'll find that pretty much everywhere. And myself personally, I'm S. Birks writer. So, but hopefully you'll have that on there. But so I'm on Instagram, X, and other places, Blue Sky as well. So, and there's also a link tree for. I think the link trees are good because I kind of collect all the links on there. So there should be one for. He said it's probably actually link tree Simon Birks. I'm just going to check now because we have the magic of IT at our fingertips. Simon Birks, that's what it is. So my full name, and you'll see a pretty picture of me. Well, not really me, but on there. But and you can also, worth mentioning, that you can pick up #1 digitally on the Top Cow site. So if you go to Top Cow on their new website, have a look on there, and you can read #1 for free, which I like people to do.
I really do enjoy this series.
That's cool.
I think that's one of the reasons I've avoided asking you any kind of spoiler type questions.
No, that's okay. At all. Yeah.
But again, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all. Thank you very much for having me.
Once again, I want to thank writer Simon Birks for being on the podcast. As always, you can follow me on X at SuperpoweredFan. You can find me on Instagram, SuperpoweredFancast. You can follow my Facebook group, Superpowered Fancast, there as well. check out the YouTube channel and subscribe. Let me know what you think of the episode. Anything that you like, anything that you don't. You can always contact me directly by emailing me superpoweredfancast@gmail.com. So for this week of Superpowered Fancast, this is Darren, signing off.